Have you ever wondered what it truly feels like to be living alone as an older person? The quiet freedom can be comforting, yet hidden dangers may slowly dim your spark. What if those small, unnoticed habits are quietly stealing your joy, shrinking your world until life feels smaller than it should? In this video, we'll uncover 10 mistakes older adults often face when living alone, drawn from real stories and heartfelt lessons that go far beyond the usual advice. These aren't just simple tips. They are subtle patterns and mindsets that can turn meals into joyless chores or make your front door feel like a barrier to the world. Stay with me until the end, because you'll discover how small changes can reignite your curiosity, keep you connected, and remind you that no matter your age, you are still writing your own story. Living alone never has to mean living less. It can still be vibrant, fulfilling, and full of meaning. Number 1. Avoid turning every meal into a chore. Think back to the last time you truly looked forward to a meal you prepared for yourself, not out of duty, but with real anticipation. It's easy for cooking to slip into a joyless routine, especially when dining alone. I once knew Carl, a retired carpenter in his early 70s, whose hands could craft intricate furniture from raw wood, but who felt lost in front of a kitchen stove. After his wife passed away, Carl began treating meals as an afterthought. His days were filled with the hum of saws and the smell of sawdust, but evenings slipped into a pattern of uninspired snacks: crackers with peanut butter, a slice of bread with a single piece of deli meat, or on one especially bleak afternoon, cold tomato soup straight from the can. I stopped by that day and found him at his cluttered kitchen table, half-empty can in hand, wearing a sheepish grin. Yet the weariness in his eyes revealed the truth. Eating had become a hollow ritual. Meals are more than sustenance. They are quiet daily celebrations of life, small anchors that keep us grounded in the present. One crisp autumn afternoon, I invited Carl to help me install shelves in my garage. Afterward, I set out a modest spread: golden grilled cheese sandwiches, steaming tomato soup with fresh basil, and a couple of cold beers. It wasn't gourmet, but Carl paused before his first bite, eyes softening as he whispered, "This feels like something again." That moment stayed with me. The secret is simple: treat yourself with the same care you would show a guest. Even when dining alone, use a proper plate instead of paper. Play a favorite song in the background, jazz, or maybe that rock album you loved in your 20s. Light a candle, even if it feels indulgent or a bit silly. That small act is a quiet rebellion against monotony, a way of saying you're worth the effort. When you reclaim the joy of food, even in small ways, the crunch of toast, the warmth of a mug of tea, you rediscover the joy of living itself. Number 2, avoid making the TV your roommate. There's nothing wrong with loving your shows. I'll admit, I have a weakness for old westerns. There's something about Clint Eastwood's steely squint and the dusty trails of John Wayne films that pulls me in every time. But there's a fine line between enjoying a show and letting television fill every quiet corner of your life, becoming a stand-in for real connection. A few years back, I slipped into that rut myself. The TV was on from the moment I woke until I went to bed. Morning news rolling into game shows, sitcom reruns, and late-night talk shows. It was constant noise, like a low-grade fever. I told myself it was just background company, but in truth, I was avoiding the silence of my own thoughts. The familiar voices of TV characters became a crutch, a shield against the emptiness of a quiet house. The cost sneaks up on you. Hours vanish, and suddenly the day is gone, leaving only commercials for arthritis creams or gadgets you'll never buy. What helped me was treating TV as a choice, not a default. I built a morning routine without screens, brewing strong coffee, walking around the block to feel the fresh air, or tackling a crossword with a furrowed brow. When I did watch, I made it intentional, picking a film or show I truly wanted, savoring it, then turning it off. At first, the silence felt unnerving, like an uninvited guest. But with time, that quiet became a canvas. I found myself humming forgotten tunes, opening books I'd put aside, even calling old friends just to talk. The TV stopped being my roommate and became a guest I invited in on my terms. And in that space, my own story began to unfold, richer than any scripted drama. Number 3, don't let the front door become a wall. It's surprising how quickly the doorway of your home can change from a passage to the world into a barrier that shuts it out. I often think of my neighbor, Mrs. Doy, a woman in her late 70s who has lived in her tidy white house with its unruly rose bushes for nearly 40 years. After her husband passed, her world began to shrink. At first, icy sidewalks kept her inside during winter. Later, knee pain made walking difficult. Gradually, staying indoors became the default. Groceries arrived by delivery, prescriptions by mail, and weeks slipped by without her stepping outside. One day, over tea on her porch, she laughed wryly and said, "If it weren't for the mailman, I'd forget the world is still out there." Her front door, once a threshold to neighbors, errands, and chance conversations, had become a boundary that closed her in. Then, one spring morning, something shifted. She opened the door to let in fresh air, the scent of blooming lilacs drifting inside. Barefoot, she stepped onto her porch, sunlight warming her face. A neighborhood child raced past on a bicycle, waving and shouting, "Hi, Mrs. Doy!" That brief moment drew a smile, a spark of connection reminding her she was still part of the world. Now she makes it a ritual to open her door each morning. Some days she tends her roses or chats with a passing neighbor. Other days, she simply leans against the doorframe, sipping coffee while listening to the birds. Inspired by her, I began doing the same. Even on days when I only walked to the mailbox or watered a plant, the simple act of opening the door felt like a declaration. It reminded me the world was still vibrant and waiting, and I was still a part of it, no matter how small the steps. The front door isn't just an exit. It's an invitation to rejoin the rhythm of life. Number 4, avoid saying, "I'm too old." That phrase slips easily into our thoughts as an excuse, a subtle barrier we create to avoid the unknown. But age is not a verdict. It's simply a number with no authority over your ability to explore, learn, and embrace new experiences. Take Eugene, a 78-year-old retiree from the sun-soaked landscapes of New Mexico. Last year, he surprised his peers by deciding to try paddleboarding. Imagine him, standing at the edge of a lake, gazing at the board with a mix of curiosity and determination. He had watched younger people gliding smoothly across the water, their movements calm and almost meditative, and something inside him stirred. He wanted that peace, that challenge, that spark of feeling fully alive in a new way. His first tries were far from graceful. Eugene toppled into the lake again and again, losing a pair of sunglasses and likely swallowing half a bucket of water. Yet each tumble into the lake was met with a chuckle and a renewed resolve to try again. Why? As Eugene put it, he was old enough not to care what others thought and still young enough to give it a go. There's a profound truth in that. Saying, "I'm too old," is rarely about physical limits. It's fear in disguise. Fear of looking foolish, of being the oldest in the room, or of failing publicly. But here's the secret. Failing at something new is far more rewarding than succeeding at doing nothing. And Eugene's story isn't unique. I've met others who refuse to let age become a barrier. Take Margaret, a 74-year-old widow who took up salsa dancing. "My hips still have a little sway left," she laughed. She didn't let stiff joints or the absence of a partner stop her. She joined a class, stumbled through the steps, laughed at her mistakes, and found a rhythm that made her feel alive again. The lesson is clear. As long as curiosity stirs in your mind and energy sparks in your body, you're never too old to try something new. It doesn't have to be paddleboarding or salsa dancing. It might be picking up a paintbrush, strumming a guitar, or cooking a recipe outside your comfort zone. New experiences don't need to be grand, they just need to be yours. They remind you that your story is still unfolding. Number 5. Don't let your bedroom become your universe. Retirement or living alone can quietly shift the geography of your life, pulling you into the comfort of one room, often the bedroom. I experienced this myself after retiring. It began innocently with a small TV for late-night shows. Then came my favorite armchair for reading. Soon, snacks, books, and even the remote for the ceiling fan drifted in. Before I realized it, my bedroom had become my entire world. The living room gathered dust like a forgotten exhibit. The dining table became a perch for my cat, and the rest of the house felt like it belonged to someone else. I had unknowingly turned my bedroom into a cozy, self-contained bubble, and in the process I had shrunk my world. This is a subtle but real danger, especially for those who live alone. Without the pull of a partner, a roommate, or the noise of a busy household, it's easy to choose the path of least resistance where comfort takes over. But when your world contracts to a single room, your sense of vitality shrinks with it. Your home is more than walls and furniture. It's an extension of your spirit, a canvas for your daily life. Recognizing this, I began reclaiming my space with small but intentional changes. I began brewing my morning coffee in the kitchen, savoring the ritual of measuring the grounds and listening to the drip of the machine. I moved my reading to the living room window, where sunlight spilled across the pages. I ate meals at the dining table again, even if it was just a simple bowl of soup. I folded laundry in the guest room, turning on music to make the task feel lighter. With each small shift, my energy seemed to expand, as if life itself was stretching back into its full dimensions. The bedroom should remain a sanctuary for rest, not the center of your existence. Keep snacks in the kitchen, where the crunch of an apple feels like a tiny celebration. Open the curtains in the living room, let the sunlight pour in, and allow your home to reflect the fullness of the life you are still living. Reclaim your space, and you'll notice your spirit follows. Number 6. Don't assume routine equals boredom. The word routine often brings to mind monotony, a dull existence drained of color. But routines are not the enemy of vitality. They can be the very scaffolding that supports a vibrant and meaningful life. Take my Uncle Raymond, a retired Army veteran with the soul of a poet. For decades, he followed the same morning ritual, waking at dawn, brushing his teeth with military precision, brewing strong black coffee, and then sitting by the window for 10 minutes to watch the birds. When I asked my uncle why he never strayed from his routine, he smiled and said, "No matter how wild life gets, I can always count on the birds and the coffee." That ritual was his anchor, a steady rhythm that carried him through life's storms. Routines don't suppress joy, they make space for it. They create a foundation, a predictable rhythm that frees the mind to embrace the unexpected. The key is to keep them flexible. Raymond would sometimes trade his coffee for herbal tea or play a different genre of music while birdwatching. Small variations kept the routine alive. You can do the same. Try a new tea, switch from classical to jazz while cleaning, or even write your shopping list with your non-dominant hand just for fun. A good routine isn't a cage. It's a framework that holds life together, giving you stability to take risks, try new things, and discover joy in the everyday. Number 7. Don't ignore your reflection. It's easy to dismiss looking in the mirror as vanity, but it carries a deeper meaning. When you stop truly seeing yourself, not just glancing while brushing your teeth, but really looking, you risk losing a piece of your presence in the world. I once knew a gentleman named Ari, whose twinkling eyes and carefully groomed mustache made him the life of every gathering. But over time, living alone, he stopped checking the mirror. He shaved less often, wore whatever clothes were closest, and slowly, the spark in his eyes began to fade. Not because of age, but because he stopped acknowledging his own existence. He once told me, "The day I stopped looking in the mirror was the day I started disappearing." Living alone can make it tempting to let these small rituals fade. After all, Who notices if your hair is uncombed or your shirt is wrinkled? But you should notice. Taking time to dress neatly, comb your hair, or even wear a favorite accessory isn't about impressing others. It's about affirming your dignity. It's a quiet declaration that you matter, that you are still here, fully present in your own life. Ari eventually found his way back, starting with small steps, a clean shave, a crisp shirt, a touch of cologne. The twinkle returned, not because he looked younger, but because he truly saw himself again. Your reflection is more than an image. It's a reminder of your vitality. Don't overlook it. Number 8. Avoid becoming the invisible neighbor. Connection is the heartbeat of community, and withdrawing can slowly erase your presence, leaving you a stranger in your own neighborhood. I once knew a man named Mr. Howard, a longtime resident of our quiet street, who seemed to embody isolation. For years, he was little more than a shadow in the neighborhood. We would glimpse him through a window or see him collect his mail, always alone. He never waved, never came to the block party, never joined the small gatherings in the community garden. Over time, we assumed he preferred solitude and respected what we thought was his choice. Then one sweltering summer evening, a power outage plunged the neighborhood into darkness. Concerned for older residents, I knocked on Mr. Howard's door, half expecting him to turn me away. Instead, he opened it, wearing a faded bathrobe and holding a small flashlight. His voice trembled as he said, "You're the first person to knock on this door in years." Those words struck deeply. As we sat on his porch with candles flickering, I learned he hadn't chosen isolation at all. He believed no one cared to bother with an old man, just as we believed he wanted to be left alone. It was a silence that grew into years of lost connection. That night reminded me of something profound. Living alone, especially in older age, can quietly turn you into a ghost in your own community if you're not careful. Neighborhoods come alive through their people, especially the elders who carry its history, share stories of the past, and offer wisdom with perspective. You don't need to be the center of every barbecue or know every neighbor by name. Small gestures, a smile at the dog walker, a quick chat with the mail carrier about the weather, are enough to keep you connected to the fabric of your community. These simple acts remind both you and others that your presence matters. Your voice, your stories, your experiences enrich the neighborhood. By staying visible, you not only secure your place in the community, but also invite those small, unexpected connections that brighten daily life. Memories are treasures, carrying the weight of life's most meaningful moments. But when your home becomes a shrine to the past, it can hold you so tightly to what was that you risk losing sight of what could be. I once visited a woman named Maureen, whose home was a living museum of her history. Wedding photos from the 1960s filled the walls, and bronzed baby shoes sat on a shelf like artifacts. Stacks of yellowed letters tied with ribbons and trinkets from long-ago vacations filled every corner. It was beautiful in its way, a carefully preserved archive of a life well lived. Yet the air in her home felt heavy, as if time itself had stopped. The most striking part was a room she left untouched, a shrine to her late husband. His books, his armchair, even his reading glasses remained exactly as he had left them years before. Over tea, Maureen admitted that her house no longer felt alive, but more like a museum she was obliged to maintain. The effort of preserving every detail had trapped her in nostalgia, leaving little space for new joy. When I asked what she might do if she reclaimed that room, her eyes brightened. She spoke of her long-lost love for watercolor painting and imagined turning it into a small studio where she could create again. In the months that followed, she kept a few cherished treasures, a favorite photo, a handwritten note, but gently stored or donated the rest. Slowly, her home began to breathe again, blending the warmth of memory with the promise of new beginnings. Your past deserves to be honored, but it should never hold you hostage. Memories aren't meant to be locked away behind glass, gathering dust. They're meant to travel with you, woven into the life you're still living. By letting go of the need to preserve every object, you create space for new experiences. Whether that's picking up a paintbrush, inviting a friend for coffee, or simply enjoying the lightness of a less cluttered home. This balance lets you honor what was while embracing what's next. Don't fall into the trap of thinking you've finished growing. One of the greatest myths about aging is that it signals the end of adventure, that later years are only for coasting. Yet I've met many who prove otherwise with their curiosity and zest for life. Take Clarence, an 82-year-old I met at a community center. On a whim, he decided to learn French to surprise his daughter-in-law at Christmas. For months, he practiced, filling a notebook with phrases, stumbling over verb conjugations and pronunciation. When the holiday came, his French toast wasn't perfect, but the joy on her face made every effort worthwhile. His journey wasn't about fluency, it was about love and the courage to try. Then there's Eileen, who at 77 discovered digital art after her granddaughter gave her an iPad. She described it as opening a fresh box of crayons with infinite colors. Her sketches, vivid landscapes and playful portraits, soon filled her home with new energy. She even began sharing her work online, thrilled by comments from strangers half her age. For Eileen, that iPad wasn't just a gadget. It was a doorway to a spark she hadn't felt in years. Growth isn't limited to youth. It belongs to anyone willing to stay curious and open. It doesn't always come from big transformations. Sometimes it's the smallest sparks, a new recipe, a hobby you've always wanted to try, or even asking a younger neighbor to teach you that tricky phone app that keep life vibrant. The danger lies in deciding there's nothing left to learn. That's when life starts to feel smaller. But when you keep seeking ways to laugh, to create, or to connect, you're not just getting older, you're truly living. Aging then becomes an invitation to keep discovering, to evolve, and to embrace the richness of each moment. So, these are the 10 important lessons about living alone as an older person. Each one comes from real-life stories that remind us how to stay vibrant and full of life. What stood out to you most? Maybe it's turning meals into celebrations, opening your door to the world, or refusing to believe you're ever too old to try something new. Take these lessons to heart and let them inspire you to keep writing your story with courage and joy. Wishing you health, happiness, and peace. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Healthy Aging Blueprint.